All right, good morning, everybody. Glad you guys could make it this morning. This morning we welcome Meredith, Bronk, President and CEO of OST. She will be discussing culture as a strategy that defines OST. Culture for your brand or culture in the workplace is essential and vital to success. So without further ado, let's welcome Meredith.
And thanks everybody for coming out this early morning. At least the sun is shining. Look, it's a little dark right here, but I'll take the bright light on a beautiful sunny day, any day. As Aaron mentioned, I'm Meredith Bronk. I'm CEO and President of Open Systems Technologies on the West Side. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. And we're a technical consulting company on the west side of Grand Rapids here. I've been with OST for just over 17 years, and we've been in business for about 18 years. So been around since the beginning, took over as CEO earlier this year and was named president last year. So been with the company for a long time. And as I'm talking today, culture as strategy, I was explaining I have 3 daughters and I was driving my oldest daughter into work to school this morning. And I said, I have a presentation to give today. And she said, what's it about? And I said, culture as strategy. And she said, what does that mean? And culture as strategy is about using your corporate culture as a strategic competitive advantage. It's more than just having a nice place to work. It's more than just having happy employees. It's more than just, I think the soft and mushy side of what some people think of as culture. It's really about leveraging that corporate culture to create strategic competitive advantage. And for OST, we're a consulting company. We resell other people's products. We bring things together to form solutions that are based in our own knowledge and our own experience and other people's knowledge and experience. We bring those things together. How we do that and how we enable our team to do that creates our strategic competitive advantage. And for us, we define that through our culture. So I'm not a big slide person. I don't like a lot of words, but as I think about what we're doing, a couple of things today. Creating culture as a strategic competitive advantage starts with defining your purpose. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, Start With Why. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes, about that, starting and defining your purpose. And then creating explosive and perpetuating belief. Because culture is not about what a leader thinks it is. It's not about what 3 or 4 people think it is. It's about what everyone in the organization is committed to, is rallied around, feels supported by, and you must create an environment that actually absolutely creates and supports that belief. In the middle of a moving target, I was thinking about this morning too in the discussion with my daughter, that culture, creating a nice, fun, welcoming, supporting environment is easy when times are good. Times of change, times of transition, times of challenge, really are the times when a person's true character is often, as you all know individually, a person's true character is challenged, and the same is true for a company culture. So how do you make sure that you maintain that in a moving target? And for us, it's been all around growth, had explosive growth over the last 18 years. But how do you maintain that? I'll tell you a little bit about our story. And admitting shortcomings, that's a big part of being able to maintain that, a big part of being able to be credible and consistent is admitting when you screw up. And then lastly, the idea of reinforcing the purpose. I talk a lot with our team about connecting the dots and connecting the dots and connecting the dots, and how you find everyday ways to find everyday decisions and everyday behaviors and connect them back to your strategy when your strategy is about your culture. Because people can connect that generally to the what they do and maybe to how they do it, but connecting back the why we do what we do in our everyday lives takes reinforcement again and again and again. The golden circle. Some of you know I said Simon Sinek's name a minute ago. Got some head nods out there. Simon Sinek says, he wrote a book called It Starts With Why. And he talks about a statement that I use all the time. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And it's something that I believe at my core and that we've built OST's culture on, that why we do what we do is what matters to our clients. It's what matters to our employees. It's what matters to our clients. A lot of people provide technology services. A lot of people sell what we sell. A lot of people do what we do. Not a lot of people do why we do it. And it's that piece of our ability to leverage it that creates that advantage. Our culture is at the core of our strategy. I prepared this slide actually for an internal discussion, because sometimes for people, when they connect what they do, they bring their own value to the workplace, and they say, what I do today in my job is about what we do. And they can connect the what fairly easily. We're a technology consulting company. We have consultants who deliver services. That's what they do. And it's very tangible, and it's easy for them to make that connection. And in talking about our strategy and talking about the vision around the strategy, connecting it back to the why is sometimes more difficult. And for OST, our culture absolutely is at the core of our strategy. Absolutely. It is our strategic competitive advantage. There are companies out there who deliver, and I'll use application development. We are a big app shop in town. And there are other organizations. We just did recently an exercise where we were talking about what do we think really is our competitive advantage. And I did this, ran our team through an exercise where we talked about all of the things, and we just listed out, listed out all of the things that we think it could be. Our methodologies and our technology and our people and all of these different, things that, and whiteboard full of what we thought it could be. And then we went through and filtered it and said, really? Do other people not have great methodologies? They do. And we filtered this down, and what it came down to is it's about the combination of why we do and how we make decisions, how we treat our clients, how we treat our employees, how we allow for innovation. All of those things together is what creates our competitive advantage. And it absolutely is at the core of how we do what we do. It informs the how, it informs the what. Having a group of people who have a really strong purpose is great. It's not a business, right? It's based on that, but you have to do something that the market wants. And you have to do it really, really well. So the why isn't exclusive of the how and the what. It informs the how and the what. Has to be informed by and reinforced by the how and the what. We created this. So at OST, we don't have mission statements, and we don't have, these big corporate, vision statements. But we have what we call our guiding principles, and there are 4 of them. And these are our 4 guiding principles at OST. The first one is to honor our people and their families first, our clients second, and the company third. To delight our clients, to delight them, not satisfy them, not meet expectations, to delight our clients, to serve with humility, and to embrace entrepreneurship and innovation. Those are our 4 guiding principles. These are the things that are at the bedrock for us of our why. It's how we've expanded our purpose into something that we think is tangible, that people can get behind, that people can behave and conform and set an expectation around inside of OST. And when we talk about honor, I led a discussion. We're trying to expand kind of how we communicate what we do. We've grown incredibly over the last 10 years especially. We added 60 people last year. We have 180 employees altogether. 60 of them were hired in 2014. And which means there's a huge learning curve going on right now too, right? When you have this soft, touchy-feely kind of culture thing that is our competitive advantage, teaching that and allowing ourselves to teach that. And a lot of the people that we've hired are young, maybe first or second job. And one of the things about our culture that I realized I'm no longer on the young side, I feel like I am, but I'm no longer on the young side of that curve, is how do we reinforce the idea that the culture isn't something that the company gives to you. It's something that you belong to. It's something that you reinforce. It's something that you live. And we've created these guiding principles, and we're expanding a little bit in how we define that experience and how that's lived inside of OST to try to be more inclusive, to try to be more representative. So I was leading a session a couple weeks ago, and right, we stole an idea from Netflix, no pride here. Netflix has this manifesto about their culture. It's a 124 slide presentation. It's really great. And one of the things that they did is they took their values and they created these you statements and talked about how you as an employee or you as somebody who buys into this, what's expected of you. So we talked about doing that with our 4 core values. So I led a group, our managers, through this brainstorming session about you statements. Let's make you statements about honor. How and when and where do you feel honored inside of OST? When do you not feel honored inside of OST? When do you, how do you make that choice for others? What do you do about it when you see that there's a problem or that somebody's not living it? How do we do that? So we created these statements in each of these. And so we're rolling out, hopefully sometime in the next probably 60 days, kind of a new 4 slides, so 1 for each of our values, with some you statements in it that maybe helps folks get their head around a little better what it really means to be inside of OST's culture. Because you have to continue to reinforce, continue to connect the dots, and continue to reinvent in some ways how and in what forum and in what medium and kind of how you go about continuing to reinforce how you are and what you are. One of the interesting discussion points for us was we have an honor. Honor our people and their families first. And anyone who has interacted, I think, with OST, clients, partners, family members, former employees, know this about OST. We're not perfect. We don't always do it right. But who we are, that defines who we are. And it was really interesting to me because we have a group of consultants, and as consultants, some weeks are 35-hour weeks, some weeks are 65-hour weeks. There's an ebb and flow into some of how we do what we do. And I was having a conversation with one of our managers recently about, these guys are working too hard. We're not honoring them. And I was like, time out for a minute. Time out, really? Are we not honoring them? Don't they want to delight our clients? Because I presume that they also want to delight our clients and that they're committed to serving as best that they can and that they're going to be creative. So this is the one that we talk about, and this is absolutely a core pillar for us. These other ones are equally important. So framing and reframing, we are honoring our employees, and I assume that our employees want to delight our clients. And so this guy, one guy, Brian, was working, he's probably worked 65 hours a week for the last 6 weeks. We're in the middle of a go live with a client that is absolutely demanding this from him. And he's exhausted. And you know what? He's energized because he is bringing to light a project that he's been working on for 2 years. So what are we doing to help honor him in that, in appreciating what he's doing and providing him a little space when we can get it and talking to the client about the level of demands? So we're doing things that we can to honor in the middle of also presuming that he's committed to delighting. And not everyone is. And so sometimes, you get folks, especially at OST, I think, who feel like the culture is something that they're entitled to. And if they're not interested in delighting our clients and serving with humility and embracing entrepreneurship and innovation, they don't get carte blanche to get whatever they need from us. This absolutely is a balance. There are 4 pillars. There absolutely is a balance to all of those things. And it comes out in all sorts of ways. I have fun stories. I have tragic stories. And we're talking about the honor piece last week, and when do you feel honored, and how have you felt honored? And generally the stories that you hear are in the middle of crisis, some personal crisis, or some personal inflection point. When people feel like, my wife fell down the stairs and broke her leg, and I had somewhere I was supposed to be, and I told my team, and my team said, we're on it, don't worry about it, go take care of your wife. Because that happens. You hear these stories about honoring, and in the middle of crisis is it's not an easy time to do it. It's a natural time for human instinct to take over. But we talked a lot about then, how do you take that honoring and that into your everyday life when you're not in the middle of crisis and still make people feel honored? So it's a way to just reinforce and reinforce. And I've got a lot of stories I can tell. I'm really excited about that one in particular. Defines who we are. So you have the core. You have this our why, our guiding principles, and talking about the postcard, that graphic that you have. We have postcards of that graphic all over our office. And now we're kind of rolling out these new you statements and evolving how we communicate that why. The other piece of that is explosive and perpetuating belief. We have to have people buy into that. And we have a couple people on our staff. Lizzie Williams, who some of you may know, was in marketing and has moved into an internal communications role for us, and Tamara Yakiri. And Tamara and I have been working through how we mature our HR side of things. We are a non-HR company. And there's a little bit of a trend to that, to literally having human resources or not having human resources. And the idea of what we're doing to take care of our employees, and as Tamara has stepped into this and is helping us mature how we do what we do, she came up with these 3 phrases: the fundamentals, the fringe, and the fun. And I like it because it's easy for me to remember. And I like it because it helps us reinforce that, again, you have to do the fundamentals. You have to pay people a competitive wage. You have to provide good and meaningful work. You have to get good people in the door. But you also have to then take that next step and take that next step. And for us, the fun, if any of you have ever been in our office at OST, you walk in and immediately you're like, this is fun. There's this thing about how we do what we do. Big kitchen as soon as you walk in the door. But it's about that idea that, and you'll hear about it in a minute. This is the stuff that employees tell their families about. This is the stuff, that people get excited about on the weekends. This is also the stuff that softens the 65-hour work weeks. Because you have to work hard. But it's the stuff that helps to reinforce that you have to work hard, but we want you to play hard. And Dan Beam, our former CEO and founder and my mentor and boss for 17 years, who just retired, has always said, if it stops being fun, it's not worth doing. So we have to perpetuate that fun. And especially in a technology environment, innovation is key and energy is key, how you go through doing that. We have a dodgeball team, just different things that we do. So for us in technology, it's that. For other people, it's other things. Community service is another big one that we do. I didn't put that in here around, it's on the fringe piece, community involvement. It's another thing that lets people feel great about their job, feel great about where they work, feel great about the organization that they're included in. This must all reinforce, though, the why. And sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you do. I was telling the story a couple weeks ago. Last year, we have our application development team. I was just talking about. We hired 40 employees, or 60 employees last year, and like 30 of them were in AppDev or something. Huge growth in our application development team over the last few years. And in that growth, until a year ago, we had like 42 people reporting to one guy. I mean, like, who doesn't see that train wreck coming, right? And we wanted to figure out how to differently manage that group and differently organize that team in a way that could be effective, but not put overhead and not put process and not put constraints, but that would allow us. We have a phrase that we use called unleashing the human potential. That's what we want to do. We want to unleash the potential that everybody inside of our organization has. So when we think about, hey, Rob's got too many people, that's easy. How do we solve it? How do we solve it in a way that doesn't constrain, that allows us to unleash the potential of everyone on that team? And I had an idea for how I thought that should be solved. And I shared that idea, of course, with the team. And I thought I was right. And I told people this is what we need to do. And well, I'm not sure. No, this is what we need to do. And my idea was culture and employees first from my cold dead fingers is what I said. Because absolutely we are, that is who we are, and we have to hold on to that. And I had an idea based on that, how it should be done. So I had an opportunity I was sitting we have a rooftop deck one summer, it was last summer, on the summer afternoon, and I grabbed a couple of Oberons from the refrigerator and I headed upstairs with Alex, a guy who's on our AppDev team. And he and I were there to talk about something else, and we were following up, and I started asking him questions about his experiences and how challenging it is right now, because he had been on the team for a little while and he saw the growth and he was feeling the pain, but he understood the intent. And I shared with him how I thought it should be solved and kind of where I was driving to solve it. And the look on his face, he was like, oh, well, I mean, yeah, probably that might work. You know, he did not want to say that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. So he was really soft about it. And as soon as I read that on his face, I was like, tell me what you're thinking. And he explained to me the different roles in his world, the different roles of the people in who I thought kind of should help manage him, and what he thought, how that process should work. And just as we were having this discussion, one of our other developers came out, because it was a beautiful day, he just happened to walk out onto the deck. I'm like, Jared, come on over. And so Jared and Alex and I sat on the rooftop deck. And I started just exploring and having this conversation. And basically, they both were saying the same thing, which was contradictory to what I thought. It was a Thursday afternoon. So I get in my car Thursday, and I call John Vansel, who's our Director of Professional Services, and I say, I just had a fascinating conversation with Alex and Jared on the roof. And I think what we're about to do in AppDev is not the right answer. And I know that it was mine. I know that it was mine. I think it's not right. Monday afternoon, a 6-pack of beer and 6 more developers, I want to go back up on the rooftop and talk to some more people about it. And so we explored this with an additional group of people. And I went up onto the rooftop with nothing in my hands. No notes, because I wasn't there to report on anything. I just wanted to have a conversation. And so I opened up the conversation by saying, we're about to roll out this decision. And I'm not sure it's the right decision based on some initial feedback. I want to know what you guys think. So I laid out my idea, because I still thought my idea was probably the right idea. Thought those other 2 guys maybe were just, outliers or something, right? And so I rolled out this idea. Hey, we need somebody else in there to manage. You have a project-oriented structure. My idea was, you guys are working on these long-term projects. The person who owns the project should be responsible for making sure you guys are taken care of. That was my idea. And Carl, who works for us, one of the guys who works for us, who was out there, as soon as I put my idea out there, he said, oh my gosh, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. And I just started laughing. I said, okay, now that I'm gonna write down, just for the record. We explored the idea. And I'm here to tell you, we implemented what they suggested. And it hasn't been perfect. I don't know if it's been great. But we did, and we followed a course of action that they thought, and I had those 6, and we took 6 more. So we talked to a pretty large swath of the team, and they all agreed what they thought the approach should be. So we pivoted and did what we're listening to absolutely what they thought was going to be the best, because we want to honor our employees. And if our employees are saying the way that I'm going to be honored is this way, that's what we should do. And that's what we tried to do, and that's what we've implemented with some success. We'll iterate. We'll continue to figure out how to do what we do and how to do it as best as we can. But we have people who are bought into the idea because it was their idea. They understood our intent. We reinforced the intent. We reinforced the idea. That was the whole process of that discussion. And not only to say, I don't know whether or not it's going to work. It might work better than the idea I had, but you all think it's the right thing to do. Clearly, it's the right thing for us to try. And that idea that says, I wasn't going in to try to convince them what I thought the idea was. I needed to listen. I talk all the time about leaders as learners and teachers and learners and teachers. Mike's going to roll his eyes because he's heard me say it 100 times lately. Learners and teachers, we're constantly learning as leaders. We must be constantly learning new information all the time. You have to be open to the idea that you don't have all the answers. You must, to be credible. And in that, teach. So the opportunity that I had on the rooftop was a learning opportunity for me. I gained a new insight. I also was a teaching opportunity for me to say, I'm president of the organization and I'm sitting in front of 12 people saying, I'm wrong. I'm wrong, I'm listening, and I want to try something different. So you as a manager, or you as a developer, or you as somebody else sitting at that table, they're going to say, Meredith admits when she doesn't get it right. I can and should admit when I don't get it right. So even in that moment, I was learning and I was teaching. Learning and teaching. You have to do that. Fix it, admit it, move on. Absolutely all day long. If you don't admit when you're wrong, and you all know people, maybe you are one of those people. If you don't admit when you're wrong and everybody else knows it, you lose credibility immediately. Absolutely immediately. So you have to be willing to do it, especially as it relates to your culture. especially as it relates to something that's very intangible. Because if you act contradictory to something that's a little bit intangible, people form new ideas about what it really means because they can't see it and they can't touch it and they can't feel it. So we don't always act in a way that honors our employees and that delights our clients. We don't. We're imperfect people. And when we don't, we say, man, that was not consistent with who we say we are. Because everyone else is going, that was not consistent with who we say we are. You have to say it and know it and recognize it so that they can say, but they're still committed. Especially when it's intangible. I put this together. I put this slide together. And I put it together in talking about us as leaders and us as an organization and the organizational cycle of learning that happens in growing. And the week that I was putting this together for us as a business, I had a chance to also get in front of a leadership class at Alma College, which is my alma mater. I used this as an individual leader development path also. So I think that this cycle is reflective of what an individual can and should do and what collectively as an organization is possible. And it starts with defining your purpose, creating belief, communicating over and over and over again what that purpose and belief is, behaving in a way that's consistent with that. Because if you don't do this, none of this matters. Behaving in a way that's consistent, maintaining a commitment to doing that over and over and over again. Deciding who your influencers are. This is a term that we use a lot. Who your influencers are. I was talking about it when we talk about it organizationally. These are people who aren't managers, but they're the people. As when I was talking to the class at Alma, one of the professors asked me afterwards for the benefit of the class. So we have graduates who are about to walk into an organization, and you're saying they need to find out who the influencers are outside of titles and managers. How do you decide who those people are? And I said, I think you would do it as an individual the same way we do it at OST, in a group. When something happens or something is going on, and I use our company call as an example, or something where you get some big news and everybody hangs up the phone, who's the first person that everybody turns to and says, what do you think? That person is your influencer. Find those people and make sure that they are bought in to what it is you're doing and how you're doing what you're doing. Personally, that's true. Organizationally, that's true. So we have people, there's a guy, Alan, who's worked for us for a long time, who I love. Near and dear to me. And he is a consultant. He doesn't wish to be more than a consultant. He is a geek. He is a tinkerer. He is, right? And he's going to see this and hear this. So I have a rule. I don't say things about people that I wouldn't say to them or haven't said to them. That's my rule. But Alan is a huge influencer inside of our data center solutions team. People respect him. They look to him whenever something happens. So when we have something going on at OST that I wonder about, I call Alan. Alan and I have breakfast on the west side when these things are going on. Usually when they're not going on too. But when they're going on, I seek those folks out and say to Alan, a test case, trying something out. Here's what we're thinking. What do you think? What's word on the street? And you know what, Alan, when he hears something that he knows is going on, that he thinks I'm oblivious to, he picks up the phone and calls me and says, I don't know what you guys are doing, but here's word on the street, right? That you have this open line of communication with people outside of a direct line, if you will, of whatever that structure is. Constantly seeking feedback. This is the learning part. Must be open to ideas. Adjusting based on those feedback mechanisms and whatever's in front of me. And then revalidating. Is my purpose still strong? Do I still have a belief? Do I need to adjust this? Do I need to make some adjustments? Because adjustments along the way, you can help redefine. You know, if there is a need to shift a core purpose based on what's going on, you can't hold so tightly to this that the feedback and the adjustments can't be made to change this. Because if you're seeing the feedbacks and you want to seeing the feedback and you want to make adjustments, and you're so tied to this that you're not willing to flex on it if it's necessary, then these are inconsequential. So it's a cycle for individuals as leaders, for organizations as collective groups of people who have a collective purpose. Connecting, reconnecting, and connecting and reconnecting over and over and over again. Absolutely necessary. I spend a lot of my day right now reconnecting the dots. We talk about, and I'll give you one story, we talk about growth. We've grown 30% compounded annual growth for 12 years or something is the statistic. And people talk about our growth, and we have growth goals. And we want to grow, and the growth goals are numbers. They're revenue, they're employees, they're number of offices, they're things that are very metric. And every time I talk about growth, I have to remind people why we want growth. Growth is vibrancy. Growth is new ideas. Growth is us being able to continue to stay relevant so that we can continue to honor you and provide you with a challenging, absolutely fantastic work environment. Growth isn't about the numbers. The numbers are a reflection of whether or not we've done what we need to do to honor, which is providing an absolutely fantastic, sustainable place to work for a long time. So, but people don't know intuitively, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how many times have I said this, right? Intuitively, people don't know. They think growth, and they see the numbers, and we present numbers, and we talk about numbers and numbers and numbers because they're easy. You have to continue to reconnect the dots for people back to the strategy. You have to continue to do that and reinforce that idea. So now people are going, growth, growth, growth. Well, yeah, growth is vibrancy. Amazing. Growth is vibrancy. Growth is vibrancy. Find a little phrase, something like that, that helps reconnect the dots. Now, those are the kind of things that you have to figure out how to creatively communicate, make sure that you're behaving with, and stay committed to how you're doing what you're doing. So I'm going to leave you with this. I was reading an article recently in Fast Company magazine, and the article was entitled Find Your Mission. And in it, they highlighted some big companies who have rallied around a core purpose. And one comment stuck out with me, and it said this: purpose is at the essence of why firms exist. There's nothing mushy about it. It is pure strategy. Purpose is very idealistic, but at the same time, very practical. So it's a great reminder that although corporate culture can feel mushy, it absolutely is all about strategy. Thank you.